Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Eva-Maria Artus, and I'm head of the National Preservation Center in the National Library of Estonia. I will shortly present the results of our expert group. So, what is digital preservation? We see here a beautiful picture of the vegetables which are preserved and then hopefully to be consumed. We have to do something with the veggies to be preserved as nicely as they are here. And we can do it parallelly with digital objects. Digital preservation is not just about storage, just keeping the files in your hard disk as we do in our computers. It's something more. We have to keep, of course, the initial file, but we have to do many things to call it active preservation. And maybe the most important thing which we have to remember is that the object that we are creating has to be preserved longer than the device which has created this object. So when we have this, we can call it as digital preservation. Of course, we have to add metadata, we have to add fonts for example, book files, and we have to make a preservation format of the digital object. And what makes the digital preservation really expensive and really like volume consuming, we have to have many space for the object, is that we always have to keep all the preservation formats. For example, we create a digital object, then we create a preservation file, and when the time passes, for example, 10 or 15 or even 20 years, then we create a new preservation format, but we have to create all the old preservation formats as well. And of course, we have to log our activities, we have to log who has done what, and then we can call it digital preservation. So we had 3 experts from Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, and we did the so-called environmental scan. We did survey plus interviews with different memory institutions. For example, we in Estonia, we have a digital preservation so-called summer camp, although it's in autumn, and we have many memory institutions invited there, and I did it as a seminar. So I collected the answers about the most important problems and the best recommendations, what to do in the field. And also Latvian expert did very good survey, asked for from 40 institutions about digital preservation problems. And now about the main problems. We may say that at least in the Baltics, the main problem is lack of staff with necessary training and expertise. It means that we in libraries and also in museums, we preserve very different kind of material. For example, in National Library of Estonia, we have books which have CDs, and we have to preserve the whole object. We would like to give access to the users that they can read the book and listen to music, or we all know the books with bird songs, for example. We have to give the users the right experience of listening this digital object in the digital archive user interface. And it's really hard to find out the best solution how to preserve those kind of objects. Of course, there is a problem with technology as well. Of course, there is always not enough of money, which leads us to next problems, which are accessible technology tools and the problems with integrations. We have many systems in our National Library. For example, our catalog system, We have a publisher portal through which the publisher can enter their books and periodicals. The digital archive should be integrated with all those systems. And the material which I was talking about is really variable. Books, newspapers, and pictures, it's so-called the old library things, but we have also dynamic materials. For example, we have apps, we have web objects. I know that the National Archives of Estonia would really like to collect old computer games, but it needs environment where you can emulate those computer games. Also, the web archiving, which we have as well, you have to be really creative to see what the webmasters have done and how to collect it. And as we know, the social media is an increasing trend, and we can't have the right picture of today's history without collecting social media, for example, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So many of the discussion in the society is going on in Facebook groups. And it's hard to collect it because Facebook itself doesn't want to be collected. And now, what to do with this problem? We had some recommendations coming from memory institutions. What we did think would be a best idea would create a network of specialists in the Baltic Sea region, that we have specialists in digital preservation field, and we can ask questions, ask for which tools they are using to preserve digital objects. Maybe when we have a good network of specialists, we can create a joint training program to visit libraries, museums in different countries, and to train digital preservation experts, which is also a good idea, is to encourage forming of competence centers. That would be maybe the next step after this joint training program. And also in Estonia, we have plans for gathering the knowledge together to make knowledge centers about digital preservation, that the many memory institutions would have, for example, the storage in their place, but the digital preservation centers would be in 2 or 3 places in Estonia, for example, in National Library, in National Archives, maybe somewhere else as well, because it's so expensive, it's so specific, and then we can raise the quality and really gather the specialists there. A really important thing what to do in the field of digital preservation is the analysis of new technologies and new types of digital objects. For example, to preserve virtual reality objects. How do you preserve it? And what would be really nice to have at the end is maybe the support of development of shared regional standards of appraisal, collection, development, and management rules. So this would be my short presentation about digital preservation expert group, and tomorrow we will have a parallel session about digital preservation, where we are going to talk longer about the results and maybe get also some recommendations from the people who are in the group tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Eva-Maria. I think it was very interesting, and I think tomorrow's debates will add up to this, both problems as well as recommendations. I will just now go to the next working group, but just one question to you. What is your most obsessive question regarding this digital preservation issue? Yeah,
I was reading those questions, and they were really important. I don't know whether it's the most important, but yes, some of my family and relatives have asked, will anybody just look for all this material And of course, this is the question, but we can't decide the things for the future generations. Of course, we have to preserve cultural heritage and do it as good as we can. And I think it's important because the heritage is our identity. This is where we are coming from, and this is really important for me. Of course, I wonder sometimes whether all those formats, all those files would be accessible, for example, in 50 years' time. But I really hope when we are doing it correctly, we are preserving the metadata, then I hope they will be accessible. So we are doing everything.
I think this is one of the reasons heritage currently is really actually called a heritage industry. Because in a way it's creating job for itself for the next couple of decades as well. So it's a never-ending job to be done and recreated for itself. Thank you very much, Eva-Maria. I think tomorrow's debate will be much more to add.